Hey everybody! Welcome once again to the Geek Mom Game of Thrones recap. Believe it or not, we are already on episode 9, and this is the Watchers at the Wall. Usually we go through each section and each storyline in sequence with my lovely co-hosts Andrea Schwalm. Say hi, Andrea.
Hello.
And Michael Harrison. Say hi, Michael. And we do not have that opportunity today. In fact, if you tuned in on Sunday, you'll remember that there was just one storyline, one big storyline that's been kind of stewing all year, and that is the Watchers on the Wall, so aptly named. So we followed the story of what finally happens when Wildlings and the Watchers clash at the Wall. There was lots of battling, lots of bloodshed, less squeezy head melons than last season, or last episode. I have some thoughts, but Michael, I'd love you to start us off with some of your preliminary thoughts about this episode.
Well, this was obviously the big set piece, kind of, let's blow all of our budgets that we have left over on a giant battle scene, very, very similar, I guess, to, was it Season 3's Battle of Blackwater? And the interesting thing about this particular episode for me was just that there was a whole lot of action, but very little that, like, plot progression, right? So we know what happened at the wall, but not a lot has actually changed. Okay.
Well, Gilly came back. Is that plot progression? We got Gilly back?
So we had a lot of minor character plot progression. We had some actual deaths. We had some characters that potentially we were unsure about return. But at the end of this particular episode, it just kind of feels like things are, well, I guess I'll hold off on talking about that until we get to the end of our discussion. It just seemed like not a lot happened, but there was a lot of cool stuff to watch.
Look at those giants. I loved the giants. They were and the Oliphants, whatever the heck they were, the mammoth mastodon things.
Yeah.
No dragons, so we were able to, employ all of Jim Henson Creations, it looked like, to get, a really interesting battle scene going there.
Yeah, it was super impressive, and I actually loved watching almost every minute of it. It was just that, even with the Battle of Blackwater, that was a big, impressive, choreographed battle with lots of stuff going on, lots of tactical decisions and ships burning and backstabbing, and it seemed like that really pushed the plot forward. Things were very different at the end of the episode. Not really so much at this one.
Let me ask you: do you think that all right? Do we think that Jon Snow has grown up at the end of this episode, or is he just being wacko suicidal? Like to me, I thought that there was progression in his character. We got to know a bit more about Samwell. We got to know, that Aemon is a Targaryen. And could have had his choice of babes, but instead came to the wall. We got to see. I don't know. I thought there was some interesting depth to the characters, and we
For sure.
You've got to get them in a conflict to really see what they're made of. That's what I thought the point of the night was.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. Lots of revelation, lots of interesting character moments. To answer your question, I'm not really sure that Jon Snow is quite sure what he's doing, but I think that echoes what Alistair Thorne said, which is even when you're in charge, you aren't 100% sure of what's going on, and it doesn't help to have people constantly questioning.
I like this.
Least of all yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Natalia. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, in terms of, if you kind of back up a little bit and think of it, whose story, I think that's kind of what you were getting at, Andrea, sort of whose story feels biggest in this episode, and I think it's supposed to be a Jon Snow story. I think we're supposed to walk away thinking, oh, more terrible things happened, and John's going to go kick ass on his own because he's the son of Eddard Stark, and he's the one that's going to make things right. But as far as like actual character growth, I felt like the only true character that seriously grew and then didn't die was Sam. He had some really amazing moments, and interestingly, to contrast against his killing of the White Walker, which was all kind of just accidental. Not only is he killing people, but he's kind of coaching people to kill people because he has Gilly to fight for.
Yeah, and he's strategizing.
Yeah, and it was really that sort of conversation that he has with John, even though John does a really crap job of explaining what it's like to have a woman. He's saying, okay, so it's worth it for me to do this. And I thought their kiss was one of the cutest things I've ever seen in my life. I mean, maybe I am just an old sap, but it was just done in such a beautifully innocent, like, we both know she named the damn kid after him,
Well, and I love that. I love the when they're on the wall and he goes all legal and says, well, actually, our vows don't say we can't have sex. They just say we can't get married or have a kid.
Right.
So he's been researching this, apparently.
And I love that. And I loved how that sort of dovetailed into his conversation with Eamon as well. I think that the best writing of the episode was saved for Sam and not for John, because John kind of did everything that we sort of expected him to do. I think to the point that when he finally encounters Ygritte, to me it didn't, I read the books, but it didn't feel that as much of a punch in the gut, because it felt more like business as usual with him. But
so do you want to talk about, I mean, to me that seems like a point to explore a little further, that point in the story, because she had said that she was going to kill him. She had sworn that, and she sure looked like she was thinking about it. He didn't look like he was anywhere close to killing her in that moment when their eyes connect.
No, he looked like he was ready
to see her. So, do you think she would have shot him?
I don't think so.
I think it depends who would have been watching. That's just my take.
And what was it? Is it Magner, the Fen? The way he fought, I thought Oberyn did a good job with fighting, but whoever's like choreographing those fight moves is amazing. Yeah. Because I was hopping off the couch. He was terrifying.
Video or it didn't happen, seriously.
He was terrifying. The way he moved. I could imagine like being a guy on the wall and just not even raising my weapon to him, just getting sliced and diced, just getting so afraid of seeing him come at me that would have been the end of it. So, I guess if he had been watching, she would have had to follow through.
Yeah, well, so the interesting thing to me is did Ygritte have a shot to help protect Jon Snow? And she clearly, if she did, she didn't take it, and if she didn't, was she looking for one? Because she was watching them go at it. And I think it's interesting that it says a lot about her intent and her motive, depending on her inaction or action.
I just know that as she was dying, I just started saying, "Say it, say it, say it." You know that Jon Snow.
Yeah, and that I wanted them to say it, but I didn't want them to say it because I felt like that was, I think that they're just that example of star-crossed lovers. I mean, people who are there was no way that they could stop being attracted to each other, but there was no way that they could live. One had to compromise so much of each other that it was never going to work, and John seems more and more set up as kind of a hero figure. It was funny, though, to watch. So we were watching with my sister and my brother-in-law. My sister, who hasn't read the books at all, of course, we started as she sat down and she's like, "Please don't kill Tyrion! Please don't kill Tyrion! Please don't kill Tyrion!" And then it wasn't an episode about Tyrion at all. But she was like, "I thought he didn't love her, or I thought she didn't love him. Why would she say that stuff? She wanted to kill him." And I said, have you ever been scorned? I mean, she's sort of that classic, but even sharper. I mean, she for her own, I think her own honor, her own duty, she had to prove to the dudes around her that she wasn't going to let some, Northman like walk all over her. But in the moment of her death, clearly she, you know,
She never left the cave.
yeah,
Which I mean that particular that particular callback just I mean I it definitely choked me up a little bit. So I mean I think that she would not have shot him. I think that she was waiting. She was waiting for a moment. She was waiting for things to die down. She was unsure.
Well, and didn't she, and of course the irony being that Alia is the one that shoots her, didn't she kill Ali's mother?
I think so. I don't know. All I've got to say is that kid's bow. I mean, I saw that bow, and that I don't think that thing could punch an arrow through someone.
I thought that was the spear. Actually, when it first came through her, I thought it was a spear, and I was like, it's got to be one of the Thens killing her.
Or the giant. Did you see the giant at the, like, he shoots this one arrow, and it goes up, and it hits a guy, and he went 100, feet into the air?
Yeah, I was joking.
That was really interesting.
We were watching that. I said, "Did Peter Jackson direct this episode?" It had a very Lord of the Rings feel, and of course, hilariously, like better effects.
I mean, it was directed by a film director. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I mean, this may be like one of the best battle scenes I've ever seen on television.
For sure.
I mean, it was amazingly shot, and there was that one scene.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. If you could talk a little bit about that.
There was the scene. It was a Steadicam shot that just kind of like surveyed the battlefield for a good. It was probably a good 45 seconds to 60 seconds. Just kind of a 360 shot with no cuts, and it was just. I mean, I'm sure that they may have like tricked us by intercutting something or whatever, but either way, technically just fantastic to watch, really well choreographed, really set the scene for the battle, and it makes me think. I would love to see. Natanya, you said this. I would love to see a behind the scenes on this episode, because I'm sure that the place where they're shooting is just like tiny, right? I'm sure that if you were to walk into that place, it would look nothing at all like what they've captured, but through really, really intelligent cinematography and just really, really good action choreography, it really seemed like it was a Peter Jackson film.
Yeah, and it certainly had those moments of sort of cheekiness too, because the giants are hideous and ugly, but they're just hideous and ugly enough to not really have personalities, except when the mammoth catches fire and the big guy's like, "Oh no, I have to run after my baby."
But I don't remember for sure from the books. I know that giants, males and females are kind of indistinguishable from one another. So part of me wonders if they were going for the whole its mate had been shot through, and that's why it was running and so angry, and why it was able to lift up the gate. That seemed very interesting to me. Just to touch back on the cinematography thing for 1 second, it actually almost seems like this episode jumped between like 4 sets, right? I mean, you had the top of the wall, you had the bottom of the wall, you had the tunnel,
right,
and
interior,
and that's pretty much it. And it's almost like a play.
Yeah, definitely.
That they've managed to make it seem so much bigger through really, really effective use of CG. I just thought that was something worth pointing out. I mean, a lot of people have asked, why don't we see more of the wolves? And I think the main reason is it costs a lot of money to create the wolves, and it costs a lot of money to create giants and to make an army at the bottom of a wall, and to have arrows flying up and destroying parts of the wall and flinging a dude 100 feet. I mean, all of that stuff takes a lot of time. So it's cool that they usually throw out all the stops for one of these episodes every season.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there's that scene. I assume it was what you were talking about at the beginning, that very long scene, and you're seeing from, you're just left with the feeling of, oh God, you guys are screwed. Like, it's just so desolate because there's so many people down there. It really me up emotionally. So
Yeah,
no,
but
it was
I
gorgeous.
think we forget how big the wall is. And I will say that like chained anchor thing that they swept, that was
That was
kick
badass.
ass. That was friggin' awesome.
Well, I was gonna
And
say, what was your favorite defense?
that was my favorite defense. I mean, fire, we've seen fire, mammoths, we've seen mammoths. I mean, in the scheme of fantasy nerd stuff. But that seemed like ingenuity and something that they actually might put together. I don't
That
know.
was brilliant.
Yeah, and
I
it's
also liked it when the archers, like, they were on a platform that all of a
Oh
sudden,
yeah. The ninjas, the ninja watchers.
yeah, I was like, wow, I did not see that coming.
it's funny too because if you think about what the big argument that Thorne and Jon Snow had about freezing the tunnel, like if they had done that, I mean, what would they have to worry about? They have these like giant chains that knock people off, and the giants. I mean, they could throw arrows up, but what else would they have to worry about if they couldn't get through that one tunnel?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
that chain anchory swingy thing, um, would they pull that back and then release it again?
I think that's what they said at the end. They're like, let's pull it back.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean,
So
they certainly pulled it back. Whether or not the Wildlings would be dumb enough to go up that particular area remains to be seen.
so so we talked about Ygritte's death. As well, we had some of our friends, and this has been a little bit of a discussion among the book readers because not everyone who died in the show died in the books, and or any of them, right? Michael's what we decided
Yeah,
neither Pip nor Grin die.
right.
Grin, I couldn't remember his name. He's blonde beardy guy, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Who
he's
none
tunnel
of them
vanished
dude.
in the
died,
tunnel?
died in the books. Yeah.
But
Maybe.
my thought to that is again the whole like this is George R. R. Martin's opportunity to edit his novels, which probably could have used some more editing. And I mean, I hate to say it, but they are just supporting characters. And
You've got Sam to engage with Jon Snow and show us his developing character. You don't need the other guys.
you don't, and they haven't had any space in these seasons. They've been along for what 4, 3, 5, whatever 10, and we're still at a point where it's just like, who are they again? Oh, he keeps saying Pip, and we remember that because it's Sam and Pip, like Sam and
Well, I
Pippin.
was gonna say, more shades of The Hobbit, or Sam and Pip,
I
and
mean, some people are really upset about it that they die, but they don't do anything in the books, so
yeah.
Well, it's a it explicitly kind of calls out those characters if you are a book reader and says, well, they're not that important because they're not going to do anything really that amazing in the TV show because they're gone now.
The clock is ticking.
yeah. I mean, you've got to wonder, like, I don't know, he could have saved himself a bit of ink. I'm just saying, some of the
Well,
books are getting kind of long. You could have just, added somebody else there. But
it's
I mean, I think it because we don't have a red wedding necessarily. I think that they feel like that. My thought is that they may feel like they need to up the ante and kill some more people that we recognize.
yeah. They actually had a situation, I think, in the first or second season where they killed off I guess Joffrey ordered the execution of the musician, where he like took his tongue out or something along those lines. It was a Merillin, I think, and he is actually, at least in the books, and this is a moment that's already passed in the show, but he is in the room when Lysa is murdered by Peter Baelish, and he's actually the one in the books that gets gets the punishment. He gets the blame for her death.
Oh,
Interesting.
wow.
So I think that they've obviously know when they can write themselves out of little moments like that, and they're not afraid to do it. I think that the interesting thing is, like, how did they use Pip's death? How did they use Gren's death? And they told two different stories about the members of the Night's Watch with those two characters.
Yeah, I mean, Pip was for Sam and Gren was for John. I mean, because John ordered, they both are responsible directly for their deaths. John told Gren to go down there and do it, and Sam was encouraging Pip up until the last to keep shooting and to shoot better and to keep going.
Well, that's true, but I also wonder, we know that they're outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Maybe part of the point of killing off characters that we know is that it would look like the wall got off too easily otherwise,
Yeah.
So you needed to have some meaningful deaths.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's not to say that in the books there weren't meaningful deaths. It's just, George R. R. Martin has like 50 billion characters that are named. So he can say, hey, this
Right.
Donald Noy or whatever, I forget the name of the dude, he died fighting off the giant. And we're like, oh, okay, well, I guess that guy who had a name is dead. Well, we needed named characters to die.
I will note that Ed is still around though, and my favorite.
Was he in the kitchen?
No, he took up at the top of the.
Oh, that's right. He took up on the top when John.
And I love the look on his face, and I was sort of giving him the Eeyore voice and going like, "Well, I expected this to happen anyway."
A little Eeyore-ish.
It was a cute little, I think, a nod to those of us who were. He has a bit more to say in the book, so. But yeah, so there's that, and then there's the way the episode ends. I mean, we don't really have too much more to talk about. I don't know if I'm convinced that John was just. I kind of feel like John was just waiting for a good reason to go out there and go back to the Wildlings and talk to Mance. I feel like he had unfinished business, and I just didn't feel like his character progressed that far. Maybe I didn't feel like that death was as important as it might have needed to be for me. I felt like it was Sam's episode. I walked away and I was like, this is totally Sam's episode. This is all about
I would agree with that.
Sam's progression and Sam, because he's been the slowest to kind of temper. I feel like John is like he grew up as a Stark, and that's what Starks do when the shit hits the fan. And,
they die?
Well, they die, but they also go out and do what nobody wants to do, right? I mean, isn't that the lesson that Ned left his kids with? Like, yep. You make the rules, you cut off the heads. Like, so right. He's gonna go do what nobody wants to do because he's the only one that can potentially do this. Nobody trusts him on either side, but what does he have to lose? He didn't have much to lose anyway. So. Yeah.
I'm very intrigued as to what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, is John officially in charge now? Is he? Because we didn't see Alistair Thorne's ultimate demise. I mean, we're assuming that.
Yeah, we just saw like a brutal wound and him being dragged away, right?
Exactly, and so and what's his name? The guy that was sent up from King's Landing.
Janos Slint.
Yeah, Slint. He's still alive, although he technically abandoned his post.
That's a great name for a coward, Slint. Like, you get the whole idea of the personality with a name like that.
Yeah, I loved how they got him down off the wall. That was brilliant. That was a great final thing for Grin to kind of pull on the show.
Well, and I actually wanted to go back to Grin for a second before we finished because I was thinking about them chanting the vows. And I thought it was interesting that, Samwell was kind of reinterpreting the vows so that he could be with Gilly. But when push came to shove, that's what those guys were saying when they were looking death in the face.
Oh, sure.
I thought that was powerful. That those words actually meant something to them. Vows mean something. Making promises means something, and it's not just a sacrifice. It actually is something that they found support from. They got emotional peace to deal with their last moments by reciting those words together. So
Yeah,
I liked that touch.
I did too. I would have loved to have seen more connection between that and the fact that it was John who sent them down there. And maybe if Slint had been the one to tell them to go down there, things would have been different. But because they knew that they were in capable hands, that maybe made all the difference. I don't think it would have been possible to do that without it being super cheesy.
And it also felt like, I think we both pointed out, Michael, that scene felt like it missed an opportunity to have that fight in there. And I don't know if they had just, blew their budget elsewhere, but it felt...
Yeah, with all the carnage that they do show, you're not going to show the death of a giant? I mean, how badass would that be?
I think that was we'll be artistic about this. Also, we'll save a lot of money while doing that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I walked away from that with, unfortunately.
I was really surprised too that they discovered it by just John's gonna walk through. He's gonna go to the other side. Oh shit! We totally forgot about these. Oh, they're all dead.
Yeah, that felt like
the giant.
Yeah, and I like his parting words. Burn these before they turn into ice zombies. I'm on my way.
Can giants be turned into ice zombies?
That would suck.
I mean, horses can, so...
I hope we find out soon.
I do too. Well, I don't think there's a whole lot more for us to be talking about for this episode. I think we are all judging by the...
speculate a little bit and not use spoilers from the books, but just speculate on what's going to happen in this final episode?
As long as you don't use any spoilers, that's fine.
What do you think? Well, so can we use spoilers from the sneak preview of the next episode?
That seems legitimate.
Not if they reveal stuff that you know of in the book.
But
I know what you want to talk about, and I don't think you should.
I don't want to talk about that. I'm just interested in what Jon Snow is going to be doing, all on his lonesome, without his sword, without his...
That seems like a really damn stupid move.
Yeah, he's gonna be toast, except that the credits didn't show, except that next week's, sneak peek didn't show that.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously going to parlay. I think that the main reason he left the sword behind is because, as we've talked about it in prior casts, those Valyrian steel swords are worth, as much as castles are worth.
Right. So
for him to take it and maybe lose it to the Wildlings would be unwise. I just don't know why he's not bringing his wolf.
I wondered the same thing. That was another one of those sort of dropped little, there wasn't a whole lot of plot going on, so some of us were kind of grasping there, and I was like, so Ghost comes out, and I expected some amazing, John and Ghost crazy ninja
some feel.
Rolling off their backs and he's standing on two legs, and it's amazing. He picks up a sword.
Surfing a dire wolf.
Yeah, but there were, aside from one or two blurry indications, that there really wasn't much there at all.
Yeah, he ripped some dude's throat out, and that was it. I think they were just throwing us a bone.
A doggy bone.
Yeah.
But I think we're finally going to find out what happens to Tyrion. And there's a lot. The episode is called Children. So.
And it's happening on Father's Day.
It is. It is happening on Father's Day. Andrea.
It's 6 minutes long.
Man.
It's interesting.
Next Sunday.
All very interesting. And have we decided if it's going to be an hour and a half long, like the last few have been?
It's going to be 66 minutes.
So not super long then.
Not super long, but it's got a little more in there for us.
Do they usually run 50 minutes?
I think they usually run just at 60, 56 to 60. Yeah.
Might be an extra 10 minutes we're getting there.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm really excited about about Tyrion, and I was just talking with Natanya last night about they didn't really have like a giant kind of plot twist or kind of reveal like they did in the past seasons, and I think they're promising a lot of really awesome stuff in this last episode. But
Well, and we've mentioned, and we won't talk about this obviously for spoiler reasons, but there are things that we're wondering.
sure,
Either they're going to be written out or they're going to be part of the next. I mean, because we are in some weird time here. I mean, essentially, we're buying. I think we can buy George R. R. Martin another year, but then we're going to get to the point where
catch up.
if he doesn't have a book, they're going to be making stuff up because there's just not going to be anything left. So
he needs to get like 10 interns to work, and then he could just edit what they do, and like he needs to get this party started. Is there a due date for the next book? Do we know?
no.
Have they suggested it all?
Nope.
I saw something about the fact that they may have to like add another book to.
Oh yeah, I think that they're gonna. It's 8 now.
That I really hope that's not true.
It's never gonna end.
So did he direct an episode this season? Does anyone know?
I can find out. I have it open right here. I don't think he did. No, they've mostly been Michelle McLaren and Alex Graves.
He directed the second episode of the 4th season. So,
right.
So maybe he's spending more time writing, which would be great.
He's going to feel like there are wolves at his heels.
Yeah, not that George R. R. Martin is my bitch or anything, but he clearly needs to focus on telling the rest of the book stories, or it'll be interesting, because what if the series catches up? What happened?
Right.
Maybe that's his plan, and then he can just kick back and say, "Oh, thank God, I don't need to worry about this anymore. I'll just let HBO take over."
Then
I had no idea what I was doing with Daenerys and those dragons.
all of the people who've just been watching the series will get their final say over all of us book spoilers, and they'll say, "No, we know what's going to happen in the book."
So according to Wikipedia, because the book is called Winds of Winter. We've already seen that there was a Theon. Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind. Sorry, I'm really tired and super.
Wikipedia, Ed, if you're interested.
Wikipedia, but what I'm saying is, so his editor on May 29th, 2014, which is just a couple of days ago, said that the anticipated release date is, all I can say that George is hard at work and we hope to have it reasonably soon.
We hope and pray, and my job is on the line.
And his UK publisher has said that it would certainly not be published before 2015. But I'm saying, if they can at least publish a book in the next year and a half, and my guess is that they're going to have they do this a lot with books, right? If a book is optioned or whatever, they actually see it way ahead of time. So my guess is that they already have the drafts.
Right.
And they're already working on, the show is way too much of a hit to do anything else. But we shall see. So it wasn't really a spoiler, I just said someone wasn't dead. It could have been a flashback to when he wasn't dead, right?
Or he could have died and come back.
Dead people come back all the time in this show.
No, they don't. No, they don't. Dead is dead, Andrea. Dead is dead. Anyway,
those poor blue-eyed creatures didn't get that message.
Right. Okay, that's true. That's true. But it ain't the same.
One more episode.
One more episode, so we will try to get it as soon as possible, depending on all things. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. I'm Natanya Barron, that is Michael Harrison, and that is Andrea Schwalm. And you can visit us during the week at GeekMom.com or GeekDad.com to find Michael, and his Ken is over there. and Ken, in fact, is over there too. But we love that you watch. Thank you for the wonderful comments. Andrea, you have been told that you are the most intelligent and wonderful woman reviewing all of the Games of Thrones stuff, so you have your fans.
We have such wonderful watchers.
You have such wonderful watchers. It's kind of amazing and humbling, and that's why we keep dragging ourselves out of. Michael and I flew a red eye in from Los Angeles yesterday, left at 1 a.m. Their time came at 11 p.m. our time, then drove 3 hours to pick up our children, so we're not exactly. But we hope to be much more with it next week, and we look forward to having conversations with you as soon as we can. So take care, Godspeed, and don't let the White Watchers bite.
Bye.